Okay, perfect. Let's try that one more time. Call the meeting to order of the July 2024 Fargo Park Board meeting. We'll start off right away with the swearing in of the new board members. Today we have with us the Honorable Judge Steve Dawson.
Commissioner Absey and Commissioner Rosted, if you'd come forward, please.
Front and center, that's the term we use in the military.
And beginning with Commissioner Absey. If you'd raise your right hand, please. I, Zoe Absey,
I, Zoe Apsey,
having been elected Fargo Park Board Commissioner,
having been elected Fargo Park Board Commissioner,
do solemnly swear that I will support
do solemnly swear that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and the ordinances and rules of the Park District of the City of Fargo,
the ordinances of the Fargo Park District
of the City
of
of
the
Fargo,
City of Fargo,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Commissioner according to the best of my ability.
of Commissioner to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And Commissioner Rosted. I, Jerry Rosted,
I, Jerry Rosted,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
the Constitution of the State of North Dakota,
and the ordinances and rules of the Park District
and the ordinance and rules of the Park District
of the City of Fargo,
of the City of Fargo,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office of Commissioner
the duties of the office of Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Commissioner, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Sir.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And congratulations and welcome to the board. Welcome back, Jerry. We will call the meeting to order. Moving on to letter B, approval of the order of the agenda. Susan, are there any changes to the agenda at this time?
Nope, President Deutsch, there are no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Jeff, please poll the board.
You can just do a roll We can do call that by
Oh.
voice vote.
Oh, okay, got it. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to letter C, election of officers. All right, so we're going to open nominations. For president of the board. First nomination. Anybody want to make nominations for president for the 2024-2025? The floor is now open for nominations.
Me?
Anybody? I mean, I can make a nomination, but it'd be better to go. But I will nominate Aaron Hill as president. Are there any other nominations? You accept?
I accept.
Okay. The floor is still open for any other nominations. Floor is now closed. Moving on, so we're going to go, so I'll entertain a motion to elect Aaron, the president of the board. So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'm sorry, we don't do this but once a year, so this fumbling through this, I apologize.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Any discussion? Please pull the board, Jeff.
You can do a aye or nay.
Oh, okay, perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Congratulations.
Now I think I step in and
Yep.
take over for
Let's
the
do that.
vice president nomination. And before I do that, I'm going to stay with the microphone. We have this wonderful plaque for Dr. Joe Deutsch for your service over the past year, serving as the president. So I know personally, I appreciate your guidance, and I've learned a lot from your many years of experience on the Fargo Park Board. And I was very grateful and thankful to that for the grand opening and all the VIP events for the sports center that you were the president, and you were able to kind of stand up and speak on behalf of the Park District and the Park Board. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to my year as president, and know that there'll be some heavy lifting, but I'm ready and appreciate everything that you've done.
You'll do a great job. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Nobody wants to take a picture?
That's fine.
Carol's gonna go. On behalf of my many years of service, thank you. I appreciate it. You're in good hands.
All right. And where'd your Mountain Dew?
Thanks.
Okay, so now we will open up the floor for nominations for the vice president of the board. And would anybody like to make a motion or nominate someone? I should ask.
I'll nominate Vicki Dawson.
Okay, we have a nomination for
Second.
Vicki. Are there any other nominations? Okay, so now the floor is closed. So we have a motion and a second for Vicki Dawson to be the vice president of the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Vicki Dawson is now the vice president.
Did that much smoother than
Thank you.
You need to change chairs with Vicki again, Jill.
Right, left, center, it's all the same.
I'm gonna stay right here.
Does it
It's all the
matter?
same. You can,
We're almost in alphabetical order.
yeah, well, yeah, you're right.
We were in
Okay, so now we're going to look at the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jeff, please poll the board.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Absey,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hilt.
Aye. Motion carries. On to the regular agenda, recognition of audience, public comments. Do we have anybody from the audience who wishes to speak tonight? Who is not already presenting on one of the items of the agenda? Anybody present? Hearing none and seeing none. We'll move on to item number 2, director's report. Susan.
Good evening, commissioners. I just have a couple quick staff updates and then a couple other items. The first, I would like to officially introduce and recognize and welcome Jane Gust, who is attending her first park board meeting as the deputy director of our administration division. Jane started on June 17th and has already contributed significantly to our team. We're very happy to have her on board.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you to all of you. It's been a wonderful start so far. I've enjoyed getting to know the team and obviously a lot to learn, a different industry than what I come from, but opportunities that are so impactful to our community, and that is the piece that I am familiar with. Excited to learn to grow this organization, take it to the next level, which you've already done by opening this space. But we're really excited to continue to work with our team and continue to make improvements across our parks. So thank you very much.
And I would also like to recognize a promotion of Carmen Johnson. Carmen was promoted on June 24th into her new role as executive assistant, and she will be working directly with the board, providing support, and then also providing support to both of our deputy directors and myself. Carmen filled in when our previous executive assistant moved on, and she did a tremendous job, and we're just happy to have her on board and to join our executive leadership team. Yay. And then just a quick update. As you all know, we are working on our overall park system master plan. RFPs went out. We received 4 proposals. We will be interviewing 2 different consulting groups on Thursday. We hope to make a selection either by the end of this week or early next week, with plans to start on that park system master plan in August. So a very exciting project for the Park District. I think really establishing that vision, looking at our short and long-term priorities in our park system. And then lastly, just an update on the Sports Center. We are opening up open times for both the basketball courts and the turf, really in an effort to just increase accessibility to the public. So we will be open 6 days a week, offering those open times in the Sports Center. And then as we're continuing to, with our construction phase, getting ready for January. So, and that is the only updates that I have for tonight, unless there are any questions.
All right, thank you, Susan. On to item number 3, we have a presentation from Fargo Angels Hockey Club. There we go. Chad, apologies, I should have asked for pronunciation. Is it Ekin?
Moral support. Come on, moral support.
Paul volunteered for this, so then he was not going to make it, but now he's here. So Paul needs to be up here as support. So I'm Chad Aiken, president of Angels Hockey. This is actually my 2nd year being president, but we're super excited for what's coming in January, as Paul keeps trying to push for earlier, but we keep hearing January. So if there is a left, like we're excited for that. But a little history on Angels. So Angels started in the first board meeting was April of 2004. So we're in our 20th year of hockey. So it's super exciting for us, coming up on 20 years, coming into a new rink. As you can see on here, we've skated at Sun Martyr Angels Arena. The photo in the background there is actually the inside of the arena. It definitely has some cool amenities, but anyone that's been there knows that you need your parka, you need your winter boots. It's a little dated, but it definitely has its own unique features. I don't know if you'll find another venue that has a roof with a feature like that with the rafters exposed. Definitely kind of gives it a little bit of an old school hockey flavor, but as mentioned, it's old, it's tired, it's cold, and new exciting things are coming. So it's a great opportunity for our board. So Angels started initially as a feeder program for Shanley hockey, as at the time, both North and South had their own feeder programs. Paul could help me in the names of those. I don't know what
The
those are.
Raiders and the Flyers fed into North and South.
And Shanley at the time was looking at reestablishing their own hockey program. So we needed a feeder program for the Shanley, Oak Grove, the Park Christians. And now you'd have like the Capstones added in. You got some additional schools. So it's definitely growing. So that's how Angels got its wings. Paul Noah was our first president. So it's kind of crazy to see, Paul still involved, heavily involved, helping push.
Sucker born everything.
Helping, really kind of bring things along for us and help build this partnership with y'all. So it's great to see that the first president is still here, heavily involved, has a son that's going to be a first-year Bantam, a year older than my oldest, so it's fun. They played on the same team this year. It's been fun to get to know Paul in that aspect as well. But you can see our first year, we were out around, we'll say 60 skaters. You can see now last year, we had roughly 178-ish skaters. Of that, 94 travelers, so that'll be your squirt, Pee-wee Bantams. So initially when we started in 2005 season, it was only squirts, Pee-wee Bantam. And then in the fall of the 2020-21 season, we added the termites and the mites. And that's where you can see there's been a ton of growth within our program. And we're expecting to see the same numbers here this coming season. And then actually with the addition of the new rink, fully anticipating that the program is going to grow even more with the additional excitement. We can say, like, we don't have any confirmation that, like, we lose skaters because of the rink, but I would say it's safe to say that we've lost some skaters because going downtown, staring at the draft across the street kind of deters people from wanting to skate. So I think coming into a new facility like this is definitely going to bring some new excitement to the program that we haven't seen. Adding in the termites and the mites brought excitement, but now bringing in the new rink roughly 5 years later brings that next level of excitement that I think is really going to help us, kind of continue to grow and propel and be the great program and allow more and more kids in the area to have an opportunity to play hockey. As we got some really good things going for us. So we anxiously await the rink opening and being able to skate at the rink, and
Whether that's January or earlier.
And then the next slide, you'll actually see we're going to name the rink that John and Mary Noah rink after Paul's parents. I personally don't know them, but I've heard great things about them. They were founders in hockey, big hockey supporters, and all about youth, all about growing the sport of hockey in the right way with the Christian faith. And obviously Paul's carrying that forward as well, having started being a part of the Angels, starting, still being a part of the program. Felt it was only appropriate just to continue honoring his parents and, kind of the family there. So I guess any questions or?
So you solidified your plans for the earlier part of the season to get to January. What does that look like? I've
Yep.
heard a few different options, but
We'll be staying at the Angels rink. We'll put ice on it for another year. Just tied to the airing on, we'll probably be there just through the end of January. I work construction. I fully understand what construction is. And I get they had a great winter and they've had a pretty good spring, but there's so much more to it than just putting up the building, right? So we'll be at Angels. And if we can get in, we'll move over whenever we can get in, but fully anticipate being at Angels through mid-January, end of January. It just, we explored options, but being an Angels provides consistency where, if we tried to find open ice, one day you might be skating at Vets and one day you might be skating at the Coliseum and one day you might be, and then the times vary and then you get your days wrong and it just creates so much more consistency for the families and the skaters.
But if we knew in the next month or two that it was earlier, I mean, honestly, it's just.
So when you skated last time in summer, late October,
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't.
will you
Let me know, because I want to put on my Uggs and one last time and come on over. Or November, December.
Well, if the ice is going to be ready early, Paul, that means the pickleball court's going to be
Yeah,
ready
we
early
gotta
too.
do that.
So have you been
Oh,
practicing or anything?
I haven't. I was going to ask you, are we going into this deal having schooled ourselves or going in raw?
I was thinking January was ways out there, but as if you're trying to talk about phase 2 coming early, I might need to start brushing up on my pickleball.
I'll start brushing up. No, we're really excited, and it's not just for our youth, but everybody in town, and there's a lot of we're excited to program it and fill it up. So it's a wonderful facility, and the rinks are going to be a nice addition when those come on board, as the pickleball, and so kudos to the board.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah, I don't have a question, more of a comment here, but Chad, I know what the kind of work is involved volunteering to lead a youth organization. And so thank you for all your work and your effort. And Paul, I mean, you've been around the block forever. Like me, we're old dinosaurs, but the support you've provided the Angels program and continue to provide them is awesome. And you should be congratulated for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll reiterate a little bit of what Jerry said in the context that, hockey was a catalyst for sure in getting this phase 2 going and moving forward, as you know, Paul, and everything. So, I appreciate what you guys, as Jerry said, are doing for hockey, but also appreciate what you did for the community to help kind of get the ball rolling on phase 2. And I mean, it takes a million people to get something done, but
We
I
should
just
all be proud.
want to say thank you for your involvement in the process of getting that started.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Chad and Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, on to item number 4. The board will consider approval of a bank resolution. Brock Leeds presenting.
Here we are. Mr. President, Commissioners, we have in front of you tonight a annual standard process when we have a reorganization meeting in which we renew naming the Director of Finance as the treasurer of the board and on the accounts that we have, and also having the president after reorganization having sign-in authority on the general checking account for the banks. And so we present to you tonight the banking resolution, which I believe Carmen has printed, and we'll get signatures of Aaron and myself following the meeting. But we need to annually have you approve this resolution and reaffirming those 2 positions as signers on our accounts. And I will stand for any questions if you have them.
I move to approve the bank resolution as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jeff, please poll the board.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Absey,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 5, presentation approval of the 2023 audit. Brock again.
All right, thank you, Mr. President, Commissioners. As you recall, at the June facilities and budget meeting, we had the audit presentation by our partners at Eide Bailly, and they conduct the annual audit, and Brian Stavanger comes and gives you a thorough explanation of our financial statements as well as the executive summary of the audit. We come forward to you at the July meeting each year to have you give approval of that audit, and briefly, before we do that, we'll have our controller, Luke Evenson, give you a broad summary, an overview of what was presented earlier on behalf of our new commissioner, as well as those of you who were present but maybe just need a quick refresher of what was covered, and then answer any questions that you might have. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Luke.
Thank you, Brock. Good evening. So if we could go back to the previous slide, we'll start with that. Thank you. So the main purpose of the audit, Eide Bailly is hired to come in and give their opinion on our financial statements. So they did the audit starting January 1st of 2023 to the last day of the year of December 31st of 2023. So they audit all the accounting transactions within that time, as well as some subsequent year to year end. They came and did their year-end testing in March and April. We did report to the board at the budget committee in June. And now this is kind of that final step before we approve of the audit. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see the audit results. The Fargo Park District for the 2023 audit did receive a clean audit opinion. What that means is it's an unmodified opinion where the auditors obtained reasonable assurance about the financial statements, and they are free from material misstatement. So this is the result that we have obtained for many years in a row, and it's the best audit opinion that you can get. So that's what we wanted out of the process. Thank you. Now we can move to the next screen. Now I'll give a brief overview of some financial graphs and some actual numbers from our year end. And we do have some comparisons for the past 10 years. I'm going to give the caveat right now that the last 2-3 years are going to look a little wonky because we've had some pretty good sized activity going on as far as cash inflows and cash outflows. So when you see some of these graphs and my eyes pop, so I'm guessing your eyes are popping too, there is a reason for that. So this first graph is just total cash and investments. What does the district hold for cash and investments at 12/31 or December 31st of each year? So for 2023, we held approximately $65.5 million in cash, 33 of that in your capital projects fund, 14 in our debt service, and 17 in our general fund. That is the highest cash balance that we've had in the past 10 years. Reason being is we have borrowed funds to help pay for this building. And we're kind of caught in the middle of, we borrowed funds, but we haven't spent them all out yet. And we'll elaborate on what that means for our financials in future slides. But what it means is we have enough money to pay for the construction. So that's a good sign. If you want to flip to the next graph, the next graph is just it's a liquidity ratio, and a liquidity ratio is basically what is the organization's ability to pay current liabilities. Do we have enough cash to pay our current liabilities? So the baseline that you want to see for this graph is 1.0. That's kind of, hey, we have enough cash to pay our liabilities, our obligations that are due. The Fargo Park District historically has been around that 3 to 4 number, as that's where we are in 2023. We've seen a slight decrease here in 2023 from the previous years, and that we expected to come because now we have debt payments coming due on some of those funds that we borrowed in 22 to fund the construction. We want to flip to the next graph. This is a simple overview of what our general fund revenues are for the past 10 years, broken down into 4 categories. The taxes, that is the largest source, that is around the 50 to 60% mark of our total general fund revenue. Our charges for services or contributions, that's our golf fees, our program fees in green. Intergovernmental revenue in red, that's mostly income that we get from the state from sales tax revenue sharing. And then the other item is, it's kind of the catch-all. And the reason why that orange category is so large in 2023, and we've talked about this a lot now, is our interest income from 2023 was 2.4 million, much more than what we predicted. We timed the market, I guess, if you would say. We've borrowed a lot of funds here to build this building, and we've taken advantage of the high interest rates that are in the current market conditions. So we've had a lot of CDs and money market accounts with 5% interest rates, which is unheard of for the past 10 years that you see on this graph. On the next slide is the corresponding expenditures. So the previous slide is our money coming in, our revenues. This slide is for our expenses, money going out, and transfers. We show this is just for the general fund, but the blue line is our wages, benefits, kind of our current expenses that we spend to keep the park district going day to day. The red is our capital outlay. So it doesn't include this building, but that would be any new equipment that we buy, greens mowers, or concrete projects, or a new shelter. That would be something we'd spend money on for capital outlay. The orange is our debt service. We have a couple of leases that we pay, as well as transfers in green, which we do make transfers for our capital projects funds to help support large projects. But this is right in line with where we have budgeted. You will see that large green section in 2021. That was the year we sold that Anderson land. And so we did a large capital transfer to our capital projects fund. So that's why you see such a big aberration there. If we want to flip to the next few slides, we talk about what a positive fund balance is. Fund balance is kind of what is our leftover, our leftover equity or our leftover cash balance at the end of the year. And we can do kind of what we want with that balance if it's unassigned. So in that blue category, that is our unassigned fund balance. That means we're not tied down to spend that money on specific items. So like our non-spendable, restricted, and assigned, we have those dollars earmarked for something. The blue category, the unassigned, the 14.8 million, we do not have a specific bucket for that as of now. At that amount grew largely in 2023, as we did have that interest revenue I talked about, as well as golf surpassing budget by a good margin. And we also did have some equipment purchases that we planned to make, but we just didn't pay out the cash because vendors had not been able to ship products to us. We were a little bit slow on getting delivery of those products. So we will pay for that, or probably already have paid for them in 2024. So we'll see those expenses come out in 24, and that will decrease our fund balance just a little bit. On the next slide, we have our year-end fund balance in our debt service fund. So the previous slides, we talked about our general fund where a large majority of our transactions take place. Our debt service fund is pretty straightforward. We get tax revenue and special assessment revenue to pay debt obligations. We expected this number to go up as we've increased our debt obligations by about 80 million the last 2 years. So when we do that, we do need to have a little bit more of a cushion in our debt service fund to be able to pay those bills year in and year out. And the next slide, we have our capital projects fund balance. You can see this is as a percentage of our total revenues. I'm sorry, this is just the dollar amount. But this number we expected to decrease as well as in 2023. The large increase in 22 was from some bond proceeds and some other donation funds that we received. And now in 23, we've spent down a good chunk of that capital projects fund on this building or the Island Park Pool project. So we will expect that number to go down further in this current fiscal year. And then hopefully in 25, maybe level out a little bit and live where we have from 2014 to 2021. The final couple of graphs here I'll show you is Valley Senior Services. This is a component unit of the Fargo Park District and a large component unit. So that is under audit, and those funds are also audited every year by Eide Bailly. So this graph shows their revenue sources as well. A large majority of their revenue source is come from the federal government and the state government. So they get over $5 million a year in federal and state aid. They do have that green portion charges for services or contributions. A lot of that is that suggested donation for meals or a ride share revenue program. And then the other portion is interest revenue or any other donations that they have that they receive. So pretty consistent. You can see in 2020, there was a big jump in intergovernmental revenue. A lot of that was COVID driven, and our VSS or Valley Senior Services has continued the federal and state funding at that level for the past 3 years after COVID hit. And we expect to here in the next couple of years as well. And then on the final graph here, we have the expenditures for Valley Senior Services. Pretty consistent here year to year, but normal wages in blue, other operating expenses, so meal costs or van costs are in the green and red category. Oh, we do have one more slide here if we want to switch to that, and that's just our debt service coverage ratio. Again, this is a measurement of our cash flow. Are we able to generate enough cash to pay our long-term debt obligations? This graph really jumps around a lot, but the main thing is we want it to be above 1.00. That means for every dollar that we have, we are able to pay a dollar out of our long-term debt obligation. So if it's at 1, that means we have a dollar in our hand and we would pay it out for a dollar that we owe. If it's above 1, that means we have more dollars in our hands than we would pay out for debt obligations. So again, positive result there to keep that number above 1. Otherwise, the last slide here we have is just some new accounting standards that we'll have upcoming in the next couple years. I won't go over those too much, but that is the end of the audit and financial analysis. Any questions?
Nice job, Luke.
I always appreciate those bar graphs, and
To make it understandable and interesting at the same time is quite the task. So you do a nice job, Luke.
Thanks, Vicki. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 audited financial statements and federal report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jeff, please pull the board.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Aye.
Commissioner Absey,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 6, board to consider approval, the purchase offer for the depot. Brock,
All right,
again.
thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Quickly, before we move on to that item, I want to make sure as the Director of Finance to formally thank the finance team. So Deanna Magnuson, Christy Solar, who are not with us this evening. Carmen Johnson was on our team at that time. And of course, you just heard from Luke Evenson. I get to stand up here and provide the information and present information, but the heavy lifting of the work of the audit is really our team, and they do an excellent job, and they do a ton of work behind the scenes. And I get to take a lot of the credit for what they do day to day. So I want to make sure everybody understands where that work is happening and appreciate all their efforts, and make sure that we always have a clean audit and are doing things according to the way that we're supposed to. So thanks to all of them for those efforts. With that being said, we'll move on to the item that you had introduced, and I'll just give a little bit of background here. As you may recall, as a board, back in February 13th of 2024, at our regular park board meeting, the commissioners took action to authorize administration to send a letter of intent to the North Dakota State Historical Society indicating our intentions to sell the depot. And the reason that we needed to do that is that the depot facility is on the National Historic Registry. And as a result of being on the National Historic Registry, it needs approval from the director of the State Historical Society and their board if we are going to sell or significantly alter that facility. We took that action following that board meeting, and you also authorized us at that time to actively pursue the sale of the depot and to bring forward to you any offers that may happen or that may come forward. Between February and June, we showed the depot on several occasions to a number of interested parties. We received a number of phone calls about just gathering information about the logistics of selling and the things that were entailed. We shared the appraisal that we had received, and we made sure that people were well aware of the requirements with the State Historical Society and the needs that had to happen in that regard. During that process, we did receive 2 offers on the depot, and at the June 11th meeting of the commissioners, we held an executive session to review those offers. You at that point provided direction to our legal counsel, Jeff Gunkelman, to actively pursue and negotiate a sale with MBN Properties LLC to purchase the depot. At this point, I think I'll turn this over to Jeff and let him walk through the particulars of that process. And then we would have presented to you both a resolution for sale and authorizing the executive director to proceed with a purchase agreement. But Jeff will have some details of the negotiations.
Yeah, so we had some back and forth with MBN. We had reached a preliminary agreement, and then we dug into the depot hardscape endowment that we have through FM Area Foundation. And we learned that that endowment could not be transferred over to MBN and has to stay with either a public entity or a nonprofit entity. So then that kind of changed a little bit of negotiations. And so that's where we arrived at the purchase price of 1.2 million. That's in the resolution and the purchase agreement. The cool thing about that, though, is in speaking with the FM Area Foundation is that we will be allowed to seek alternate uses for that endowment within the park district. So as we're building towards getting this thing sold, the other thing we can work on is with park district staff is, trying to find a similar use for those endowment funds. Because that endowment, it's permanently restricted. And so I think there's like a $170,000 cash balance in there, but we can never access the principal, but the income we can take off it every year. And so staff will work on trying to find a way to use that income every year that would satisfy a transfer for FM Area Foundation. And so slight reduction in the purchase price today from what we might have thought we were going to get. But long-term, we'll get to keep that endowment and keep that money being used for park district purposes. Other thing that we have in there is that we'll have about a 60-day due diligence period for them to get their inspection done. It's an old building. Both sides will want to know as soon as possible if there's any major outliers that are going to require, possible relooking at things. But then with a closing date of pushing out till December 20th. So we want to know quickly as to what defects there might be or anything that could possibly be wrong. But while also understanding that we're going to close a little bit later in the year, but still close within calendar year 2024. And so, yeah, with that, we have a resolution that the board needs to approve to authorize the sale. For the sale of real estate, Park District requires a supermajority vote of 66%. And so with there being all five of you, we'll need four of the five at least to approve the sale, different than a normal vote. And then also we have the purchase agreement that we can have, if you guys authorize it, that we can have Susan execute today, and we can get going with MBN on that and keep this process moving forward. So I'm open for questions as well.
So just to clarify, the final price that we're at as of now is it 1.15, $1,150,000, or is it still
1.2 million.
Still 1.2 million. Okay.
Yep.
Any questions, discussion?
More of a statement, but whenever you sell property, you run into things you don't realize or don't anticipate. So good work, Jeff. Thanks for getting it to the finish line. I think you've arrived at a reasonable accommodation, and let's hope the inspection goes well. With that, I'll move to move to approve the purchase offer for the depot as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to comment to thank the staff for their efforts because they put in a lot of time and energy on a task that really wasn't in their job descriptions. So thanks for your help with all that.
And I'd like to add as well that, of course, it's a beautiful historic property located in the heart of downtown Fargo. And so I know it's an interesting property, beautiful property, and the historic preservation of it, I know, is important to me, and I would hope to the rest of us. And I know, I was curious to see what kind of offers we would get and from whom. And I think, the use will end up, it's kind of, I feel good knowing that we're entrusting it to an organization that I think will keep that and take care of it and do good things with it. Any additional comments, questions? So we do have a motion and a second. Hearing no additional comments or questions, Jeff, please poll the board.
Commissioner Rosted,
Yes.
Commissioner Deutsch,
Hi.
Commissioner Absey,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Jeff.
Before we adjourn, if I could just have a moment, please, Commissioner Hill. I was flustered at the beginning of the meeting with this whole election process, and I didn't get a chance to accurately reflect on the last year. And I just want to say thank you to our staff for everything that's happened this last year. And when we look at different projects, we look at the sale of the depot, we look at the sale of the RDJ, we look at the opening of the sports center, we look at all these different things individually, but just to look at the breadth of what our staff from top to bottom have done in the last year, that I've been privileged to be the president, is absolutely amazing. By far, the biggest year in the last 18 years that I've been on the board. So I just want to take a minute to thank everybody, because it's a heavy lift, and we're bringing in new staff all the time, and we've got strategic plans, and we've got all kinds of great things going on. And I just want to thank everybody for all your hard work, and appreciate the fact that we're not just getting things done, but we're making plans and moving forward. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. That